Hello, how are you all doing? My name is Corinne Clapham. I'm an intuitive wellness coach, as well a yoga instructor, a meditation facilitator, amongst many things really in the wellness realm. And today what brings me here is our channeled message, our theme for this new moon phase. So May 7th, this Thursday, at 6:45 a.m. Eastern Time, we shift into the full moon in the sign of Scorpio. So if we have any Scorpios in the house, put it in the comments below. And then right now we're currently we last had the new moon in Taurus. So just shifting back into that for one moment before we get into the full moon that's coming. Taurus is ruled by the planet Venus, and Venus is a lot into when we come into our body, when we come into our beauty and luxury and coming into that space. So you might have noticed where you felt a little bit more inspired to connect with that side of yourself, to come more into the feminine energy, more into the receiving mode, and to maybe even do things for yourself like, I don't know, maybe your nails or facial or doing your hair. So spending more time on doing things that really nourish yourself and your body, whatever that is for you. So when we go into Scorpio, that's ruled by the planets Mars and Pluto. And that's a little bit more masculine energy. So that's more outward activity, more outward energy, taking action. And so when we're focused on taking more action, that's more in the masculine energy. So we might see a little bit of a shifting in that and feeling a little bit more inspiration to start to take action, which is great. So really harnessing and utilizing that energy and really becoming focused on where you want to use that energy. Because sometimes when we have really big hits of inspiration, we're almost all over the place sometimes because we have our hands in a lot of different pots, or our inspiration starts going. We get all these downloads or all these ideas of things that we want to do. But what happens when we have a lot going on with that is we start to do a little bit of a lot of things rather than focusing on a couple things, really progressing in that. So just having the awareness if things feel a little bit scattered and a little bit all over the place, because then it's like our energy is being expended through a lot of different layers rather than really going in one or two and really harnessing with that, and really running with that, and really getting results with that. So sometimes what can really help with that is writing things down and just get it all down. You don't need to edit it, and just write down all your ideas. And then when we get it outside of our head and we can see it from a different perspective, then we can look through it and see which ones jump out at you, or read them all and see which ones really light you up and get you excited. And that's a way that you can get more focused and narrow on what it is that you really want to focus on in this new moon phase. Now, Scorpio is also the element of water. So if you think about water, water can be very cleansing. It can be very purifying. There's always movement with water. So it's also, the way I see that is going with the flow. So if you think about if you're floating on a stream, you can either float downstream and go with the, what's the word I'm looking for? Going with the, not pattern, but going with the flow. There's another word I'm looking for that it's slipping my mind right now. The current, actually, that's what I was looking for. The current of the stream, the direction of the stream. And sometimes when we get too much in a controlling energy, or too much into the masculine energy where we want things done a certain way, we want it done now, we get into that kind of very boxed frame of mind. If we go too overboard with it, then it's almost like we are floating upstream. And if you think of yourself swimming or in a stream, and if the current's going down this way, but you're trying to swim up this way, there's a lot more resistance. There's a lot more energy that you're going to have to put in, and you're going against the current. So just really being aware of when we step in or out of that balance, and redirecting it where we can be focused on what we want, but let go of the attachment and how it shows up. Be focused on the actions that we need to take, but also letting go of how everything plays out and continue with that flow rather than fighting upstream. Makes sense? So the other thing too with full moons, and actually this one is a super full moon. So this is the third one of 2020 this year. This is also the last one of this year. We had one in March, we had one in April, and now we're in May. So what is a super moon? A super moon is when its orbit is closest to Earth. So it appears a lot larger, the light is a lot brighter. And if you think about moon, let's just strip this down even back a little bit. If you think about the moon phases, so our main ones are the new moon and full moon. And full moons are usually where we have our shadow aspects that come to the surface. So if you think about a full moon, it's at its fullest, at its peak, it's the brightest. And so if you think about it shining its light down on, say, our streets, our neighborhoods, it is lighting up the dark aspects in our neighborhood, in our area. Now, if you take that same analogy and think about how the full moon actually can illuminate the shadow aspects, the dark aspects within ourselves, it's the same thing. And everybody has shadow aspects, there's darker aspects. But when there's the light being shone in that, then we have the awareness of it, of what's there, right? And once we have the awareness, then we can decide, what do we want to do with it? Do we want to continue with these shadow aspects? And what I mean by that is it can show up in different ways. So it can show up in triggers. It can show up with maybe emotions starting to come up. It can show up with things happening in our reality that we're like, well, I didn't really want that, or I didn't really want to manifest that into my reality. But maybe the subconscious is playing something different, right? Maybe the belief systems that are going on there are saying something different. And that's what has been creating what's in front of us in our reality. So if we can be an observer in that instead of being very attached to it or becoming a victim to it, if we can actually take a step back, and it's almost like we are looking from a bird's eye view, or what I like to say, a child's like curiosity. Because if you think about children, if you watch them, they're very animated, they're very go with the flow as well. And it's like they'll notice something, but they're not so wrapped up in it. It's when we get older and our mind starts going and our ego starts going that we start building all these attachments. We start creating stories around certain things based on our past perceptions or our past experiences, which create this current perception we have on it, right? So if we are able to actually take a step back and be more of an observer, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier because you're not bringing in a lot of different emotions into it. And let me clarify that, because it doesn't mean we're not going to have any emotions in it, because things are going to be invoking emotions within us. But not only that, there's a lot of emotions we suppressed over time. So it's okay if it comes up. We want it to come up and out and be released. We don't want to keep suppressing it, keep pushing it down, and keep avoiding it, right? Because if we do that enough, that's where sometimes emotional or physical discord can happen, or emotional or physical discomfort or pain can start to grow, right? So we want to allow that to come up. And just like how we like to be acknowledged at times, sometimes it's as simple as just being acknowledged, right? So there's a difference between having those emotions and allowing it to come up, different than if we get too attached, too down the rabbit hole, and then we start allowing all these other emotions to come in, and then things are a little bit skewed, right? It's not as crystal clear anymore, and we can sometimes lose sight of what the lesson is. And so that's what I mean by those two differences in terms of when we have the emotions involved. So when we come from the observer, it's just really tuning in and checking in and be like, oh my gosh, this happened and it made me feel this emotion. Or someone said this, or this happened, and I noticed I got really angry, or I felt very angry, or I felt very sad. So if we get affected or triggered by something, then that usually means there's healing to be done there. Because if you think about it, if there was no healing to be done around a certain thing, you wouldn't have gotten triggered. It just wouldn't affect you that way, right? It wouldn't even invoke a strong emotion. So when that does come up, let that be your barometer. Let that be an opportunity to see what's there and to do the healing around it so you can release and clear it. So around the full moon, you might notice a lot of that starts to come up a lot more and is more present. And I was just debating if I was going to go into talking about something else because I know this is also a time and a period where a lot of people are having very vivid dreams. And if you've already had vivid dreams, they're a lot more vivid than they used to be. There's a lot of different layers of things going on right now. So I just want to make sure I don't veer off too much and just kind of keep focused on the moon right now. So with the full moon, it's all about seeing what was within us and what we're ready to release and clear that no longer serves our highest good. And if you think about this one, especially in the Scorpio energy, it's all about death and rebirth. This full moon is also called the flower moon. So this is May's full moon is called the flower moon because we're also in spring. This is when the buds are starting to blossom. So if you also think about it, there's a period of time before that we're shedding the leaves. We're shedding all these things, these layers. And once we shed all that, we create more energy. We create more space within ourselves. And when we operate from that cleaner space or more connected space with our higher self, our divine self, then our perspective, our perceptions are different. And from there, our actions and our reactions are different. So we start moving into a different kind of phase of growth. And if you think about spring, we start to blossom into our best selves. So really utilizing this time to be gentle with yourself and going through this process. What is it that you are ready to release? And if you think about Scorpions are it's a very hard shell and they have these stingers. So if you think about it, if someone has their stingers ready to go and protect themselves, then it's almost like they're in this defense mode, right? Because if we're not in that kind of energy and we're in a very much like trusting energy, we're very like open-hearted and love, we wouldn't have to feel guarded. Like that energy wouldn't even be there, right? So we always have like the energy of love or fear. We're never in both at the same time. And within fear, there's a lot of the different emotions. So there could be emotions of anger, sadness, stagnation, jealousy, and all these different emotions. And then in love, you can have different emotions like joy, peaceful. So it's kind of also noticing where you are on that spectrum. And going back to what I was saying is if we're in the energy of fear, then we would probably feel like we need to have our defenses up a little bit more, maybe because we don't trust or we're afraid or fearful of something happening or not happening or coming through or not coming through. Whereas if we let go a little bit and in the vibration of love, more in that feminine energy, more receptive energy, it's more trusting, it's more open, it's more lovable. So really taking this time to ask yourself, what is it that you're protecting? If you have your defenses up, your stingers, as we could say, ready to protect yourself or defend yourself, what is it that you are protecting yourself from? And trust what word comes up. Trust that first inkling that comes up. Because sometimes what happens is we get that word, we get that message from our body, but our mind and our ego wants to come and be like, oh, no, that doesn't make sense. Or it's probably this or it's that. That's the mind and the ego. But we want to connect here and get the answer from there, right? And trust that and be gentle with yourself. It's about like noticing the judgments and noticing what comes up, but without judgment. And that can sound a little bit like, it could almost sound counterproductive or contradictive. But if you think about it, it's having, again, it's the word awareness. This word awareness keeps coming up. So it's having the awareness of when our judgments are there. And that's also in the vibration of fear as well, right? Why do we judge? Why are we judging? Because we have this like perception of something. And sometimes what we see out there is a reflection. It's a mirror. And that's not always the easy thing to hear, because sometimes we're like, I don't like that. But maybe there's something that we see that's showing us within ourselves that maybe we did, but we didn't realize came across that way. Or like there's always something, there's always a lesson that we can extract out of everything if we choose to utilize it as that, rather than taking things very personal and going down the rabbit hole and starting to put a whole other story or perception around it. Right? So that's the theme over the next couple of days. Really bring the awareness and see what comes up. See what it is that you've been trying to protect yourself from. And where does that come from? What is it that you need in order to feel safe? What is it that you need in order to be able to let go? What is it that you need in order to heal that, right? And there's a difference between being in a defense mode, being in protective mode out of the energy of fear, versus like maybe someone is in a situation where you have to be vigilant and make certain choices. There's a difference. Do you see the difference? Because if you're in a situation where it's not healthy, then yeah, you might have to make choices that are going to bring you on a path that is more supportive and healthy, rather than just thinking, oh, I'm protecting myself, it's this fear, and then like negating that. It's not about that. It's not about that. I want to make that very clear. There's two different situations, and harnessing the energies in two different ways that are going to best serve you on a healthy way. Okay, so I did pull a card for this full moon's theme. I did pre-shuffle because I know sometimes the shuffling on video is the sound is not the best. It's a very beautiful card, and this is by what I call it Baron Reed's decks, Wisdom of the Oracle, and it's such a beautiful picture. And the message is blessed. And here it is. It might have been feeling like things are so crazy, especially right now. We are purging on an individual level, and we are on a collective level. We're actually purging in every way. Politically, every single structure is being questioned. The light is being drawn on it, even on the dark aspects. And what isn't working is starting to crumble. And it's not necessarily something that we need to fear. This can be a very good thing. Transformation and change can be a good thing, because if we keep sitting in something that's not working, that's not necessarily the healthiest thing either. So sometimes if we don't make those changes in movement, then there'll be something that comes to propel that movement, right? And the universe, or whatever it is that you believe in, you can insert whatever name or word you want to put in there. If we are fully supported by the universe, then we know that everything is happening for the greater good. And what is it that we can do for ourselves? What is it that we can improve on within our growth on our path that will start to create or to propel us on our path in the best way possible, right? And so even though things have been feeling so uncertain during this time, and uncertainty can bring up a lot of fear for people, as humans, we tend to want to know what's happening, what's the next step. And that can be a lot of masculine energy as well. And sometimes when we go too much into that, then it can get almost to a controlling kind of state. And we all do it. We all do it, right? So again, it's having the awareness. Like if you think about a pendulum and it swings left to right, we're always trying to get balance. There's going to be times where we're out of balance, because balance wouldn't exist if there wasn't times we were in balance. So when we actually notice when we're out of balance, it's not a time for you to be hard on yourself. It's a time to be like, okay, this is what's going on. What do I need to get back into this? So maybe not too much in the masculine energy, but enough where it's really serving us. Maybe not too much in the feminine energy where we're too much like, okay, I just trust everything's going to happen. I don't need to do anything. That's too much that way, right? So we want to be able to bring it into balance where we can harness the strengths of both of those energies and utilize them in the certain times where it's going to best serve us and be able to let go in other times, right? So just know that if you've been wanting something or desiring something, or you've been feeling so many different emotions, just know that this message, blessed, it's here. You're already blessed. It's already happening. It's just a matter of seeing what the blessings are. What things can we have gratitude for? Even during these uncertain times, what are the things that you can give gratitude for? Maybe this has been a time where you could actually spend time turning inwards, where maybe before people were working so much and working jobs they didn't even like and starting to lose their purpose and just feeling like they're waking up and going to bed and everything's on repeat and they're like, well, what is the point of this? So maybe this is an opportunity to get more clear on what you truly desire and to tap into your higher self, your divine self, and to get focused on what are these desires, what are these blessings, and knowing that they're coming, knowing that they're already here. But sometimes we have to let go of how it appears. We have to let go of the how, right? Because then we get too much again in the masculine energy. And then it's almost like we confine what's happening. We don't allow the universe to let it show up in its way, right? So it's a time where we practice our trust, we practice our faith, whatever that is for you. And at the same time, taking inspired action as we are co creating with the universe, right? So it's all about balance and awareness. I would say those are the two words that will best support us moving forward in this new full moon energy, this new moon cycle, because everything can, like I said, have too much the other side. And so same with Scorpio. And any zodiac sign will have its pros and its maybe not so great strengths, right? But with Scorpio, it can go a very different direction with the Mars and the Pluto and like the masculine energy and very outward action. And some of the energies of Scorpio, like jealousy or can be very snappy, very stingy. We need to, the more we are aligned and grounded and balanced, the more our reactions aren't going to be so reactive like that. And our perceptions are not going to be so muddied with things. It'll be more clear and we're able to step more in from a vibration of love. And when we come from that energy or vibration, we're able to see situations and see maybe what other people are doing and be like, okay, they're doing the best that they can and where they're at, rather than a different energy and like, oh, they're doing this because they're trying to do this or it's against me. Like there's a different energy with that thought process with those stories versus the one here when we're more balanced, right? So if you have any questions at all, please post them down below. If you're a Scorpio, let me know. I'd love to know what Scorpios we have in the house. And with the super full moon, you know, if you think about us as humans, we are probably like around 85 to 95% of water from what I've read, which is a lot. And if you think about water, it can be easily affected. Like if you throw a pebble into the water, it starts to have a ripple effect, right? And so the same thing with us is we can feel the energies and vibrations that are happening. So above, so below, right? And some people can feel a lot more than others, especially if you're highly, what some people call highly sensitive or empathic. You're going to be a lot more in tune and susceptible to that. Sometimes sleep might be a little bit difficult. I notice there's always a night or two around the full moon, around the new moon. I like just wired, like I have a hard time falling asleep. And it's interesting because I've for fun, I tried Googling to see what like the scientific reason or whatever it is for it. And it was interesting what a lot of doctors were saying. There's not really anything that would provoke that. But the way I see it is if we're very susceptible to energies and we can feel it, and if we have the energies of the moon that's here, especially with super full moons when it's closest to Earth, its orbit, we might feel that a little bit more. And so sometimes just knowing that can give us a little bit more ease. And then when we're going through that situation where we can't sleep, it's kind of like um, we can be like, okay, well, it is, or what can I do to help myself, right? How can I clear my mind a little bit more? Because quite often when we have trouble sleeping, it's because the mind is going and is going. So if we can get to a space where we calm that down, whether it's going into meditation, listening to maybe sleepy time music, as I like to call it. Sometimes I listen to very relaxing music, supportive music, or maybe positive affirmations. Like, what can you do to nourish yourself and your mind, to calm down, to feel more at peace, or maybe even use like essential oils or certain ones that I have that I love that puts me more into a calmer state, maybe not having so much caffeine later in the afternoon or evening if you drink coffee. So just seeing what action steps can you take that's going to be more gentle on your nervous system and your mind, where you can be more grounded and calm and peaceful. So just taking a look at that as well. All right, my friends, I hope that you got some good pointers in there that will best serve you. Again, the word balance and awareness is the key words to take away moving forward in this moon cycle. And if you are looking for something to help you get more clear, more grounded, and more balanced, and just a higher connection with your divine self, something to nourish yourself, especially during these times, I do have a full moon awakening virtual event that is happening tomorrow. Tomorrow's the full moon, Thursday, May 7th. And it's at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you can't make it on the live, there is a replay that's available for all those people who are registered. And this is a time where we come together and really shed the layers and the weight that we've been carrying, that we are ready to let go of. And so this is a time where we do this. There's a guided meditation. We do some Kundalini yoga. Any event that I do, especially my moon event, I always try to think of mind, body, and soul. So have something that's going to really connect and nourish those three elements, or mind, body, and soul, or mind, body, and spirit, however you'd like to look at it. So there'll be a guided meditation, Kundalini yoga. There's going to be some Reiki to also assist in clearing out the inner stagnation and the dense energies, and just to help to recalibrate and to realign our chakras. And once we get that, then we have our energy, our prana, moving a lot more fluidly within us. And when we start to open up these chakras and have them more in balance, we don't want them too open either, but we don't want them too closed. We want them nice and balanced. Then that's when we start to step into more of our inspiration. We step into feeling more safe. We start to step into more our feminine energy, more into our sexuality, into our inspiration, more clarity, more focus. Our third eye can start to open, where we start to see more beyond what's going on. Our crown chakra, our connection to our divine self. When we're more connected with that, we hear our intuitive guidance a lot more clear. So often when some of the chakras are closed, that's when we can start feeling other energies that are not so pleasant. And what I mean by energies is we can start to feel more not inspired and just fatigued all the time and no purpose. And so when we really come into the alignment, that can really open up a lot for you. It's like everything just opens up and you can be a lot more productive. So we'll be doing that, and I'll be concluding with the Tao blessing. Tao blessing can be in any area of your life. And it's really a nice time for everybody to connect and be in community as well, especially during this time, because a lot of people, we've been spending more time inwards, indoors. And just to answer a question too, because I know I've gotten this from one of my students that has come to my full moon events before, or my moon events, whether they're full or new moons, which I used to do in person. And of course, with COVID going on now, it's moved virtually, which is great, because now, not the COVID, but going virtually is great because more people globally can now attend. But one of the questions I had from someone, I want to share it here in case one of you is sitting there thinking this, she had expressed that she felt a little bit shy and didn't want to really have to share or say anything. Because when I did my in-person moon events, we'd be in circle and ceremony, and there would be times where everybody would would draw a card or say something and share their name. And so she had wondered if on the virtual ones she would have to talk because she felt more comfortable not doing that. And that's totally fine. So I just want to let you know if anybody's thinking that you don't have to talk, you don't have to share. Um, there might be a time or a period of time that people can ask questions or say something, and that's completely voluntarily. So no worries on that front. If you have any other questions, please let me know. Um, and I'll actually put the link down below where you can see more details, how you can prepare for it. It's going to be a really fun one. This one, like I said, I'm adding Reiki in this one, which I haven't in the previous ones. And we're going to do a fun ceremony, a different ceremony than I've done in the past of releasing and letting go. So I'm really excited to implement this one with everybody. So there's usually a bone structure, but every event closer to it, I will get guided to do something that's more specific for who's showing up and what they need to heal and move forward in. So I was looking forward to seeing what the theme is and what we're going to do. Everything I do is guided and intuitively guided. So I love you all so much. I will put that in the description down below. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. My name is Corinne Clapham, owner and creator of Inner Paradise, where we focus on inner healing using natural methods. And I look forward to seeing you all soon. And if you like this video or anything similar in the wellness realm with details and wisdom and inspo about that inspiration, feel free to subscribe to my channel and to like this video. Much love. Take care.